Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Lau with Kenshan Crafts. Today I am going to be doing a review of my currently inked pens back from October 2023. I know this is super overdue, but I just wanted to make sure that I had this video up on my channel, as I do have a currently inked playlist with my currently inked and the review of those pen and ink pairings. So if you're interested in checking out old videos, definitely go check out that playlist. I am going to be again discussing the flow of the pen, the comfort of the pen, and just overall my rating of, or like my ranking of the pens. At number 8, I believe I have 8 pens, 1, 2, 4, yep. So I had 8 pens in October inked up that I shared. So at number 10, let's see, it was the Pilot Custom 823 Amber with the medium nib, and I had this inked up in Birmingham Pen Co. Fox Squirrel. So I changed this ink out, and I was okay with doing that because I didn't really care too much for this pairing. So I'm going to put this at 8th place. So the Pilot Custom 823, I love the look of, I love the color of this pen, but I think to me it just doesn't inspire me to write so much. Like the nib writes fine, it writes beautifully, but it's also kind of generic in terms of writing feel. To me, I prefer more tactile feedback, and so because this medium Pilot Custom 823 medium nib is so smooth, it creates a very nice, quiet writing experience, and I like to feel my nibs on the paper. So this ink color is not very inspiring, I guess. I mean, I did choose these colors based on a theme, and so I can't fault the pen or ink, because this ink was, you know, it definitely represented the color that I was going for in terms of the theme. But that also shows me the kinds of browns that I don't lean towards. So that's what makes Pilot Custom 823 at 8th place. The comfort of this pen is absolutely great. You know, in the past I have said that the 823 is one of the most comfortable pens. So in terms of comfort, I'm giving it a 9. So that comfort is there. And then in my wet versus dry inks video, I mentioned -5 to 5 scale, with 0 being an average flowing ink, -5 being a very dry flowing, and 5 being very wet flow. So I'm going to go based off of that so that I can be consistent moving forward, because in the past I have said that a 10 is super perfect, and then I switched to 10 is way too wet. So now moving forward, I'm going to keep it consistent, where -5 is a dry combo, 5 is a wet combo, and 0 is an average combo, and then anything in between is just leaning one way or the other. So for this Fox Squirrel Pilot Custom 823 combo, the flow was about a 3. So on that scale, it's kind of a bit on the wet side, because this medium nib writes really broad, and it's also very juicy flow. All right. At number 7, let's see, number 7 was the Platinum Pokemon Fountain Pen. So I guess you can kind of guess. I do love the color. The flow of this ink was really nice. It's a bit on the drier side, but it also wrote smoothly. This is a very smooth, fine steel platinum nib. So platinum nibs are just really good. I know that platinum nibs have more of a feedback to them, but this one did not have that much of a feedback. It's really smooth feeling, and that could be due to this ink as well. This ink is very smooth and very lubricated. It's Colorverse San Francisco Pen Show exclusive Golden Gate Bridge. It is a beautiful, lovely bright red, and the red shows itself off really well from this nib. It doesn't like show a lighter pink or anything like that. If you are just starting out with fountain pens, this fountain pen is really good. This one made it to number 7. Oh, it has dried up on me. Okay, well, because it has dried up, we're going to just use another pen. So the Platinum Pokemon Fountain Pen made it to number 7. Because I didn't really It's just a plain white plastic body. You know me, I like my very aesthetic looking pens that will draw me to pick it up, and then the writing experience, if it's great, then I will love it. So I kind of need both, but it seems that to me, it has to inspire me to pick it up first. The nib writes beautifully though, so for beginners, this is one of the best, and it's only like $5-6, or I think it's probably 12 now on AliExpress. It's a great pen. You should definitely check it out. So the comfort of this pen was all right, because this grip section here isn't terrible, but it's also a little bit on the thin side. Not as bad as my Maki-e Platinum pen, which is much thinner. So I'll give that comfort in a 7.5. And the flow was definitely on the dry side, but it still flowed so beautifully. It was nice and controlled, so I'm gonna give that, we'll go with -2. It did dry really fast, but it wrote really nicely, so it's very controlled. An average flowing ink pen pair is where it glides smoothly, but it doesn't dry right away. This one dried so fast, but it glides nicely, so I'm putting it closer to 0. All right, at number, let's see, 6. Yeah, number 6 is my TWSBI Diamond 580 ALR Prussian Blue. Absolutely beautiful pen. It truly, truly is. If you love demonstrators, this is one of the best ones out there, and I think everybody has this one. So if I try to sell this one, nobody will really probably want it because you already have it. Okay, so this one made it to number 6. This is a broad nib, and I don't typically write with broad nibs, but when you pair it with a dry shimmer ink, the broad nib kind of writes almost like a juicy medium. And so I do like that about this pen, and it was a very controlled flow. It wasn't so wet, it wasn't dry either. So for the flow, I'm giving this one a 0. It was just absolutely perfect, average flowing ink. In terms of comfort of this pen, it's not terrible, really. The one thing I hate about the TWSBI Diamond 580s is that the aluminum here is, even though it's ridged and its function is meant to keep your fingers from slipping, I can feel my fingers moving back and forth, so it doesn't really, I mean, it stays in place if I do, but I just find that the diamonds are a little slippery for me, but this is the only one that I have kept. It's because it's my very first TWSBI Diamond 580. I love this color so much. This is a lovely blue tone. I don't think it's exactly Prussian blue, but I'm glad that it's not exactly Prussian blue, because this is the perfect kind of blue for me. In terms of comfort, I'm gonna give it an 8. It's not terrible. I can write nicely with this, and the shimmer showed up so well in my writing because it's a broader nib. And I know that I've said that my TWSBI feeds don't do well with shimmer inks. It might just be that this shimmer ink is better suited for this pen, but also using it in a broad nib helps. So the feed and the nib kind of helped to make this flow much better than my other TWSBIs with other shimmer inks. All right, at 5th place now is my Pilot Iroshizuku Yama-Budo. Oh, no, it's my Sailor Pro Gear Slim Autumn Drizzle. This pen wrote so divine. It's so smooth, but I think mainly it's because I paired it with a very lubricated wet ink. So Pilot Iroshizuku Yama-Budo is the ink that I paired with this one. I think it was such a good pairing. The one thing that I will say about Yama-Budo, some people have said that Yama-Budo could stain. So it didn't stain my nib or my converter, so it's a safe ink to use. However, this ink is so saturated, as with most Iroshizuku inks, but especially this one, so saturated. And I think generally purple and red inks are so saturated that cleaning them takes a long time. That was the only bad thing about that ink, is that it took over 20-30 flushes before the ink was completely out of it, out of the whole pen system. And I did write it dry, so this was a really good pairing. I loved that it was silky smooth coming out of this nib. The color is actually, you know, really nice because I have a medium fine, so it's not too dark of a purple. This is more of like a magenta, leaning a bit on the purple side. So this came at number 5. The comfort of this pen is a 7.5 because I don't like Progress Slims. They give me cramps. They're so thin. And then the flow of this, it was extremely wet. Much wetter than the Platinum fountain pen. So I'm going to give this a 0. Actually, it leaned a little bit on the wet side, so I'm going to give it a 1. So it's a little bit wetter than the TWSBI's Prussian blue with the Diamond 580 broad nib. So yeah, if you have a very dry Sailor medium fine, pair it with a Pilot Iroshizuku ink, and it's going to be a little bit on the wet side, which is very nice because you want your Sailor medium fine nibs to write smoother because they have a lot of feedback to them. All right, at 4th place is my Leonardo Momento Zero. This is the Rangoli. It is the Pen Boutique exclusive. And funny story, this pen, I love it so much. It's just amazing. And if you have not watched my video yet, go check it out. It is my unboxing of the Rangoli. You'll see how how silly of a reaction I had when I first saw this pen. But the story is, well, my little story. So I asked Lena from Pen Boutique on Facebook, and I asked her if I can get the Rangoli where you get the variation from red, orange, yellow, green, teal, purple, pink. Like, I wanted that gradient. But I guess, you know, like that's a perfect gradient of a primary manipulation 4 to get the rainbow like that. So this was the best one they came up with, and I think that it's pretty good. It's not what I wanted, but I love it because I love this bright red, orange, yellow piece here, and then the purple and pink fuchsia here. So gorgeous. And because of that, I wish there was not a little blue piece here. This blue piece is very pastel. So when I brought this pen to my pen meet, a pen enthusiast there, she saw my Leonardo collection and she wanted to check this pen out, and she was looking through it and she said, "What is this pen?" And I said, "Oh, well, that's the primary manipulation 4. And she said, "Are you sure? Because my primary manipulation 4 does not look this bright." So that is it was really sad to hear that her primary manipulation 4 was like very pastel-like. And I did notice that a lot of these primary manipulation 4, the Rangoli on the reels that Pen Boutique showed, looked very pastel for sure. And I think the pastel comes from the mix of these blues and pinks. Like when you put those two together, it becomes pastel. But when you put bright warm colors like this together, or cool toned colors together, you get much more vibrant mix in this resin. So I think I definitely won the lottery in terms of a vibrant primary manipulation. And when you want a PM4 resin, you want it to be bright. So I am happy that mine looks this bright. So I am, you know, sad for others who has a much duller looking PM4. But if you like that, then that, you know, great for you. But if I had a PM4 that was very dull, I would return it right away. So beautiful, beautiful pen. Even though it's silver trim, I will not sell this pen because it is just one of the most unique in my collection. All right, so the Leonardo Momento Zero Rangoli came at number 4. Yeah, it's been a while, and I should be cleaning this because it has a shimmer ink. But it's a steel nib, and I think it'll be fine. A steel nib, and I think the Leonardos are really, really easy and nice to clean. So the Leonardo Momento Zero Rangoli came in 4th place. I loved writing with it. I definitely used it all up. This Golden Beryl ink, I think, is so stunning. It goes so well in most pens, and I chose that for this one because of this bright yellow color here. The comfort of my Leonardo Momento Zeros are 9. They are a tad bit heavy sometimes if you post them, and longer sessions you want to use them unposted, but they are a little bit on the heavy side. They're about 25 grams unposted. And so that is a bit big, but between 22 and 25 grams. So I'm giving it a 9 because it's not terribly too heavy or not too light. In terms of the flow, this flow was perfect. It was not too wet. It didn't like when I wrote it down, I didn't have to wait hours and hours for it to dry. That's an exaggeration, but so the flow of this, I will give it a 0. It was a perfect flow. Edelstein Golden Beryl is a dry ink, but it's a great flowing ink, and Leonardo steel nibs are not wet pens, but they're not dry either, so it was almost like the perfect average flowing, and I loved it. All right, at number 3, this is tough. So these are the last 3 pens. Okay. Oh my gosh. These 3 just look so good together, do they not? So one of them is earth-toned, foresty green and browns. The other 2 are black. Very, very classy looking pens. Now, I don't go for black pens as much, and you already know that, but my Grail pen here is just amazing. Like I picked it up every single day. And then this black Tortoiseshell, I didn't pick it up every day, but it had one of the best writing experiences ever. And the Leonardo Momento Zero Foresta Umbra has the basic Yovo experience, which I love, and it has one of the most beautiful swirls. Lots of movement, lots of beautiful patterns to look at. This pen is divine. So which one made it to 3rd place? Or which one takes the runner-up for the best? The main ranking at the bottom 3 here is which pen I picked up the most. So 3rd place will be this one, the Pelikan M605 in black tortoiseshell. It is a very light pen, so if you want longer writing sessions, this one is great for that because your hands will not cramp up. However, it is very thin, but it's just at the edge of being too thin. So if you don't like thin pens at all, this one will probably give you cramps as well. So for me, I do feel like the cap does back weight it a bit, but you can see here it's quite balanced. Yeah. So it's balanced enough, but it's a little bit back weighted. And I give this, so this is 3rd place. I loved this color so much. Montblanc's Petit Prince Red Fox it flows so well and so beautiful, even though it's a drier ink. I don't understand how Montblanc's inks are dry, but they flow beautifully. I mean, they're considered dry, so I believe they're just like, they lean on the dry side with something in the ink properties that makes them flow so nicely. So this extra fine nib does feel a little bit scratchy if you have a very dry ink in it, but this one is a perfect ink, perfect dry ink for it. The comfort of my Pelikan M605 Black Tortoiseshell is I'm giving it an 8. The flow of this is about a 1, yeah. It writes wet, it writes smooth, but it doesn't take too long to dry. So it's a little bit on the wet side, but it's not terribly wet. So a 1, it 1, like -1, 0, 1 are like the perfect sweet spot for me. At number 2, which one could it be? Okay, well, you know what? I did write this one dry. I picked it up every day. So this one deserved number 1. As much as I love this look of this Leonardo, the ink, pen, and nib pairing on this Visconti Homo Sapiens is just too good. So the Leonardo Momento Zero Foresta Umbra has one of my favorite inks. It is Colorverse Alpha Capricorn. It is this lovely lush forest green, a little bit on the lighter or like a brighter side, and not dark, with copper shimmers. Absolutely beautiful pen and ink pairing. This one deserves second place. And the comfort again of my Leonardo's R9. The flow of this is a little bit on the wetter side, so it's a bit wetter than Golden Beryl. Alpha Capricorn is a shimmer ink, but it's definitely wetter than Golden Beryl, so I like that. So I'm giving the flow of this pen ink pairing a 1, which is great. I don't think I'll ever give any of my pen ink pairings a 5 because I don't like gushers like that. So 5 and 4 are like super gushers. The ink stays on the paper for a very long time. Yeah, not me. All right. So the Visconti Homo Sapien Bronze Age, my favorite, back in October and November. I had this ground to a CSI. Even though it had a lot of clicking noises, I still loved writing with it, and I wrote it dry because I could not. This ink is the perfect kind of green ink for me. It is bright, vibrant, so I do like jewel toned colored inks where they're vibrant and they're bright, but they have to be in the shade that I like. And then I also like the more dusty inks as well. So, you know, they're both opposites of each other, but I do like myself a bright, jewel-toned green, jewel-toned... You know what? I think I only like jewel-toned teals, greens, and turquoises. Yeah. I don't see myself writing with a jewel-toned red often. Jewel-toned blues, no. I don't care for those. Yeah. So mainly green. Yeah, I'll say green. Like, it's just that pop of green. Love it. And this emerald green definitely has some blue in it. It definitely has some blue in it. And I loved it so much. The CSI is so much fun to write with. So the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Age deserves its place at number 1 for October. Totally deserved. It is one of the most expensive pen I own, and this ink is one of the most expensive ink I own as well. So what an expensive pair. And it's just so lovely. This ink is actually very, very wet. So I tried the Montblanc Emerald Green in my Platinum Laurel Green, and it wrote like a gusher. I would say that the ink flow, ink and pen flow for that pairing, Emerald Green with Platinum Medium Nib, was about a 4 or a 3, like 3 or 4. See why I tuned my cursive smooth italic to be dry. Like it writes quite dry. And so with this nib, it did not feel like it was gushing out at all. And I was like, I thought that Visconti pens are really wet, but it seems like CY had tuned it to be dry, and it works perfectly with this ink for me. So I was happy with that. So I'm just going to dip that in to show the beauty of this color. So the Visconti Homo Sapiens got number 1. The comfort of that pen, I'm giving it a 9.5. I loved the grip. It felt amazing. The only thing with this is that it is a very heavy pen, and I wouldn't recommend posting it because it's very heavy. It is the perfect weight actually, but I don't think I could write with this for like long term because it is that heavy. It's about 28 to 29 grams. So it fits nicely. It's a nice substantial weight for when you're writing for about, you know, a page or two, but any longer than that, it can become too heavy. And the flow from this was A1. It's a bit on the wet side, but it was very controlled. So as you can see, my top 3 pens, 1, 2, and 3, were all the flow range was a 1 for all 3 of them, and that is where I like my ink flow to be, because it's more controlled, but it's still wet and smooth. All right, first. Okay, you guys, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed going through my ranking with my pens with me. Let me know which one of these pens that you guys have and what inks you love to pair in those specific pens. Again, these 3 are my top 3. If you have any of my top 3 pens, let me know. I love to hear when I have pen friends out there who have similar pens with me, and so we can talk a lot about those similarities. Alrighty, so thank you so much, you guys, for joining me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.